Hello and welcome to a DFS preview for the 2023 AT&T Byron Nelson. My name is Eric, and here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about trying to hit the optimal lineup every single week. And in these preview videos, I like to target the stats you want to build your lineups around by taking a look at the bucket system. Now, if you're not familiar with that, check out the description of this video. I have a link in there that'll send you to another video that explains all about the bucket system. But it's not just the bucket system we'll be covering in this preview. I will also go over the tournament and golf course information. We'll check out, the grass that's used at this golf course, how long it is, maybe what shot shape is required or preferred. We'll cover that in the golf course and tournament information segment. We'll also go over the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups to give you an idea of what salary structures work at this event. We'll also review the Wells Fargo Championship, which was last week, to give you an idea how well the bucket system does, because that's what I'm going to conclude this video with. Not only will we cover the bucket system for the Wells Fargo Championship, but we'll also cover the marquee tee times, which I use every Tuesday night in my strategy videos. So the review should serve a purpose of kind of getting you excited about the remaining part of the preview video, as well as a strategy video. Now remember, I go live with my strategy videos every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can join me there. Ask me questions about the bucket system. Ask me questions about the sweet spot process. I'll also use my optimizer to build lineups. So if you want me to build lineups for you, again, I go live with my strategy videos 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. That might change as the summer months, get longer, but for the time being, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now that I reminded you like 1,000 times, hopefully it's drilled in your head. But that is what we'll be covering in this video. Again, I will conclude the video with the bucket system. Timestamps are in the description. You can skip to whatever part of the video you like. But before I get any further into this preview, a reminder of giveaways. Every week I give away $5 Monday night. This being a Monday night, I will be giving $5 away here shortly. But just a reminder how you get your name into these giveaways. You have to participate on the channel. So that requires you being subscribed and commenting on any of my videos. I'm giving you one free entry per video that you comment on. And if you ever need a topic of conversation or whatever, give me your favorite golfers that you're going to play this week. Give me one, give me two, give me three, give me four. And if you want, you can give me your favorite golfer in any of the different videos I create. It could be anybody. I don't care. We're trying to boost up the YouTube algorithm to, obviously send the video out to other people. So all you got to do is comment, and you're going to get participation points. Basically, you're going to get free entries per video you comment on. Those go towards the weekly giveaway that is worth $5 again. But it also goes towards the monthly giveaway. All the weekly giveaway entries go towards the monthly giveaway. So you get a double chance to win. And at the end of the month, basically I run the monthly giveaway the first Monday of the new month. I'm giving away $50 if we reach a sub goal that you can see all the way over there to the left. I'm at 532 out of 550 subscribers, so we just need 18 more. I think we're going to do it at the end of this month. So if you're not yet subscribed, which I know half of my viewers aren't, which is just commonplace for YouTubers. If I can get 18 new subscribers, we're giving away $50 up there. If not, I'm going to be giving a t-shirt away that has this logo on it, like Gabriel Brown last week. That Monday, obviously he won the monthly giveaway. I have yet to still send him out that t-shirt. My bad, Gabe, but I will send it out to you here shortly. By the way, if I send you a t-shirt before, I do have a logo golf ball if you would like that instead. Just reach out to me on Twitter, because that's obviously where you and I communicate mostly. But if you would like that instead of a t-shirt, I can certainly send that to you, because I've yet to send out that t-shirt. I'll do that Wednesday. But let me know. Let me know before Wednesday. Anyways, yes, if we don't reach the goal over there to the left, 550 subscribers, I will, if we don't reach the goal, I'll send a t-shirt. But if we do, $50, I'm giving $50 away. So again, if you want your name into this giveaway, comment down below on any of the videos I put. I basically cut this preview video that you're listening to right now or you're watching into 4 other videos. So that's 5. It's 5 just from this one. Let's see. Course and tournament, pass optimal and GPP winning lineups, review. Yep, 4. I cut it up into 4. This will be obviously the 5th one, so you can get 5 entries into this giveaway. So without further ado, let me go ahead and put that on the screen. Let's go ahead and do the weekly giveaway. I had 34 unique entries. I appreciate everyone who participated. I had a ton of people who came into the live show, participated there. So that was wonderful. It was a great live show. 34 unique entries. All I have to do is just click a little this to a Y and we get our winner. So I guess without further ado, let's do this. Our weekly giveaway winner, who's getting $5 for me, Joanne. This is the 3rd time, which means you qualify for a t-shirt or a golf ball. You let me know, and we'll keep in touch. But Joanne, congratulations. Yeah, that's I think you've won the weekly giveaway 6 times now. Which just means it's the same people over and over again, which just increases all of your guys' opportunities to win. So if anyone else wants to get into this, obviously comment on any of the videos. I put every single user on every different video in here. You can see all the videos that I include. Joanne won from her entry into the Mexico Open, the review, the PGA DFS review for the Mexico Open. That's how Joanne won. I mean, I could click this yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and you're going to see Joanne would have won again for the tournament and course information. She participates on every video. It only increases her chances to win. So if you want a chance to win $5, which is an entry fee into the Drive the Green contest that you could win $25,000. Like it's as simple as that. All that I ask for is participation on your end. So that's enough pleading or whatever you want to call it. Joanne is our winner for the weekly giveaway. Congratulations, Joanne. One reminder, Prize Picks giveaway. It's more of a rebate. If you want a chance to play this for free, actually not even so much a chance. If you want to play this for free, sign up using the promo code SweetSpot. When you sign up using that promo code, deposit $20 in your account. Once that happens, I will send you your $20 back. Prize Picks will also match your deposit. So your 20 turns into 40. And all it will cost is your sign up information as well as that initial deposit. So you can play this for free with $40 in your account just by using the promo code SweetSpot and putting a $20 initial deposit into your account. Now, Prize Picks will, if you use my promo code, you will get a match up to $100. That's the same as the Rick Run Goods, the Pat Mayos of the world, all of those things. We all have the same promo code or the same benefits using the promo code. You're just getting $20 from me for using the promo code SweetSpot and putting an initial deposit into your account. So I'm going above and beyond what anyone else is doing. So check the description of this video if you want a link to Prize Picks. That'll get you to the homepage. And from the homepage, you can then go sign up. It'll already populate the promo code in there for you. So you don't even have to type it in. I'm just making it super easy for you. Again, check the description of this video for that link. One last reminder, as I go throughout this video, I do have a cheat sheet. You can follow along with me by clicking the link in the description. You'll see it says cheat sheet. You click that link, you're going to come to this page. Now there is some missing information. This will come out Tuesday when the PGA Tour gives us tee times. So this will be available to you. Not only does it have what I call the dream sheet, which I will be covering in the preview as well as a strategy video, it also has the bucket system, which gives you the projections that I think golfers from these buckets will finish inside the top 10. It also gives you all the other statistics right here. Again, if you're confused by this, join me Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, where I go live. I'll explain it to you right then and there. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But if you do have any questions, join me. Join me there. So this is available to you. Again, the dream sheet's available to you by checking out the description of this video. There's a link, again, to the cheat sheet. Now, you get to use the filters. One, I was going to end it there, but a reminder, you can use the filters on here without, you just get to use it for free. But you can't edit this. You can't modify it unless you go up to the file menu and make a copy. You can also copy this information if you want by doing that, by making a copy. So just remember that. I do have kind of a little tool tip in here. If you go to the little SweetSpotDFS cell that you see here, it will say make a copy of the spreadsheet and it'll show you how to do that. So again, this is available to you, and I will also have an optimizer ready tomorrow during the strategy video. So if you would like to use that, again, just requires you to participate on the channel, and you'll have to email me that you like the optimizer. I'll remind you tomorrow on the strategy video. I'll also be live. I will send it to you while I'm live. There are no distractions with that. So come check me out tomorrow night once again. All right, that's it. That all the reminders, all the giveaway reminders. This is actually like 3 minutes longer than it typically goes. So let's go ahead. Let's hurry up and get into the course information, the course and tournament information. So I'm actually going to start here with the tournament fact sheets. You can find this at the gcsaa.org website. This gives you what the par is, the yardage, the stimp meter, like a lot of good pieces of information if you weren't aware. So all of this is available to you. Now, the things that I like to look at, it's definitely the yardage. Par is okay. I mean, it's not really the biggest thing, but you can use that as a data point. You can also use the stimp meter as a data point. 11.5, that's pretty average on tour. So the only time that 11.5 would be scary if the greens were very, very undulating, which I don't remember these greens being very undulating. I think they're pretty flat. So this is kind of slower. I mean, I wouldn't say they're flat. I think this is just average pace, but you can use this as a data point. You could also use average green size. I don't really think it matters this week, if I'm being quite honest, but you certainly can use that. I like to come down here to the turf grass. This is where I first check the tournament fact sheets. This is what I want to know. What are the greens? You know, what are the fairways and what is the rough? I really don't care about tees. Like, nobody really cares about tees. Why would you? You get to use a tee. The grass doesn't even have to be, a factor in any golf shot. So you can ignore this, but when it comes to greens, this would be your putting stat, obviously. Fairways would most likely be, I mean, this is both approach and around the green. So too is fairway or rough. That would also be approach as well as around the green. Now, I would more or less lean towards around the green when it comes to rough. I don't necessarily care too much about approach shot. Although, yeah, never mind. I would look at approach shot too. I wouldn't really dive too much into the weeds, honestly, though. So I like to come here just for the greens. And that is the grass that I am using. Like if I was to pull up the cheat sheet for this week, I am only, let me actually pull up the cheat sheet. I'm only using bent grass. It says Bermuda, but I'm going to change that right now. It is bent grass. I'm using it for the greens. I've been using bent grass for the Byron Nelson since it's made its change to this golf course. That's also something to consider. Let me go ahead and throw that on the screen right now. So this golf course that's being used, TPC Craig Ranch, has only played here in 2022 as well as 2021. Obviously, COVID, we had a little bit of a break. So there wasn't a tournament played in 2020. And then prior to 2020, it was Trinity Forest Golf Club for 2 years. 2 years. And prior to that, it was TPC Las Colinas. Now, that is something worth consideration, because when it comes to the bucket system, if you're familiar with it, I'd use course history all the time. This week, it's going to be tournament history. And if you're going to look at anything that comes with this tournament, it should be tournament history. Because really, we only have 2 years prior to this that have really course information. You know, the only 2 years this course has been played was 2021 and 2022 on the PGA Tour. So you could use this. I personally think you want at least 2 years of data before you actually consider course history. So I think this is the first year you can actually start looking into course history. But I also don't mind if you wanted to use tournament history, because you're going to get some of the same golfers that come to this tournament every single year. This is a Texas event. we're going to have a lot of our Texans play in this golf tournament because it is near and dear to the to home. It's not a, you know, a perfect science or anything like that, or, you know, a perfect theory or whatever you want to call it, but I think you could still use tournament history just fine. And if you don't, I have really no allegiance whether it's tournament history or course history. If you don't want to use tournament history, don't. You have 2 years of course history. I think that's just fine. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's see. Do we have anything else to talk about when it comes to... No. One interesting note, they'll have these additional notes down here. One is this. A cool, dry spring has led to many issues with grass breaking dormancy. Every single week that you come here and we talk about the golf course and tournament information, I usually bring up the overseed that are on some of these golf courses and how, you know, they break dormancy. A lot of times I'll say we're not sure if the superintendents at that golf course just let the natural grass grow through, you know, break dormancy, or if they burn the overseed. And if you want to know how they do that, it's through chemicals. They spray chemicals on the grass that will kill the overseeded grass, but it won't affect the Bermuda or whatever the natural grass is underneath it. So I always think that's really interesting. This is only really affecting the tees with the Bermuda grass as well as the rough. So I imagine there's probably some overseed that's still... Actually, no, I don't think there is, because if you read this, it says the turf density will not be what it was in like it was in past years, meaning it will probably be thinner grass. It won't be, you know, fully bloomed grass, meaning the rough won't be as hard. It won't be as difficult. So I think you still would use Bermuda. There's no overseed, and even if there was, there's nothing telling us what kind of overseed it is. So just I read that earlier and I'm like, that's pretty interesting. So I think around the green probably isn't going to be as challenging. I don't have stats to show you if it was challenging in previous years, but if you have that capability, maybe around the green this week, not as important as it might have been in past years. Just throwing that out there. Then you can also see that like Winter Storm has caused some damage on the greens collars. You can ignore that. Not a big deal. They wouldn't be playing the PGA Tour on this golf course if it was damaged, which reminds me of the Detroit Golf Club. I don't know if anyone saw that on the news, but they had a couple greens vandalized. People went in and poured stuff on the greens. It doesn't look like it causes, you know, like deep-rooted issues, so I think they'll be fine, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens with that tournament if you know, the course doesn't actually heal up in time. Anyways, I just wanted to do that little side note because it reminded me of this. Another data point you could use when it comes to this golf course information is Tom Weiskopf is your course architect. Basically, what I would do with this, whatever database you're using, whatever website you're using, maybe put an architect and just see what their average finishing position is. I really personally wouldn't care. Don't get too far into the weeds about strokes gain stats. Just not that big of a deal, honestly. I would just look at average finishing position just to see what it looks like on, you know, Weiskopf. And if you wanted, you know, like if you're throwing this into a model, I would only, out of 100 points, I'd only give this like 2 points for the architect. That's basically all that I would give. That's how much you should understand that I care about course architect. At least for this tournament. I don't think it really matters. Yeah, that covers the kind of the golf course piece of, well, more or less the agronomy piece of the golf course. What I like to do every single week is kind of go over the golf course and the layout of it, just to kind of figure out what shot shape might actually be, you know, more beneficial than another shot shape. Really, you have 3 shot shapes. If we're being technical, you've got a fade, you've got a draw, and you got a straight ball. It's not really a shape when you consider, but whatever. I'm not going to get into the psychological component about that, but I like to look to see, well, is there a preferred shot shape? And if there is, well, on my cheat sheet, I do have their shot shapes, at least some of them. I have to admit, I've been a little lazy this year with updating golfer profiles, mostly because I've been working my butt off trying to get my database up and running to apply to my website. So then I can give that to you guys. The golfer piece, it's very simple. And I guess now that I say that, I kind of kicking myself because a lot of this is pretty easy. Tom Kim, we all know, fades the golf ball. KH Lee also fades the golf ball. Taylor Montgomery fades the golf ball. I have to go in and update these things. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of these, but anyways, most of these are available to you. You can go check it out at that cheat sheet. But yeah, going back to the golf course, it doesn't really look like there's a particular shot shape that really is beneficial over the other one. Sure, I have 3 fades on approach shots, not an end-all be-all, versus 1 draw. One of these fades, if you read this is also another thing I would suggest doing. Pause the video and read the descriptions that I have. Going for 2 on this par 5 will benefit from a golfer hitting a fade. So those that do hit fades will make this par 5 a little bit easier, a little bit more accessible to get an ego putt out of it. So keep that up. That's how I look at it. It doesn't look like there's any other par 5, and it really doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You could, golfers who don't primarily hit this shot shape can just play it safe and, just par that hole and try to birdie the other ones. I mean, it's as simple as that, at least for some of these PGA Tour players. So when I look at this, I don't really necessarily see, one shot shape being more prevalent than another. So I think everyone's pretty open, and you kind of see that every single week. Or every single year at this event. And I say every single year, I mean each year, because there's only been 2 years where this golf course has been played. And if we go and take a look, KH Lee, he doesn't really shape it one direction or another. Spieth draws the golf ball most of the time. He obviously is introduced a fade more so nowadays. Sam Burns hits a fade. Kazire hits a draw. Matsuyama hits, he hits both. He can go both ways. Sebastian Munoz last year hit a draw almost primarily. Berger hits a fade. I can't remember what Stallings does. Xander hits a draw. Palmer hits a fade now. So does JT. Just going through some of these. So yeah, maybe fade is actually kind of a little bit more beneficial. And this is obviously, I watch a lot of golf, and I also provide instruction on the side. I know how a lot of these golfers, what their preferred shot shapes are just from memory. Vegas hits a draw. There's Spieth again. He hits a draw. So it's kind of, you can go either or. It doesn't really matter. Mix it in equally or don't care about it at all, honestly. So really, shot shape doesn't really matter. Now, coming to the tournament information, your strength of field's 229. Last year, I think it was 299, like 70 points higher. Oh, God, I had it 350. What was 2021? Do we have that by chance? 275. So, okay, so in 2021, this tournament might actually be closely related. Like we could kind of compare that year to this year. In 2022, it was almost, it was 100 points higher, 130 point or 120 points higher than it was this year. We had a few more notable names, which also reminds me, Jordan Spieth isn't in this event. If he was, he'd probably add maybe 20 points to the strength of field. So it would be very similar to 2 years ago. But he obviously withdrew. Got to be cognizant of that. I have already updated my spreadsheet, so you don't even have to see Jordan Spieth's name on there. Just remember, he withdrew. So this is a very weak event. Weak field, I should say. 2 10K golfers. We will have a full field event, so there'll be 156 golfers in this field. I don't have all of the names yet, but with some of the withdrawals, I've already made the replacements on here. In fact, if you were to go to the cheat sheet and scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see the guys that were added in. So Stanley, Mac Meissner, DJ Tran, and George McNeil. I don't have their DK name plus ID because DK hasn't updated it yet. I'm assuming I'll get that tomorrow, so I'll make sure that that's available to you guys tomorrow. But quite frankly, you're probably not playing these guys anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think we have like 3 golfers waiting to. Maybe you already know what it is or who they are. I don't remember if this is an open where people can qualify for it, but if it is, then those are the 3 golfers that we're waiting for. I don't think it's going to matter one way or the other. You're probably going to be more focused on the top of the salary leaderboard than try to figure out who are the guys that are being added in. I just wanted to provide that for you so you have all the information. So, week strength of field, 156 golfers in the field. Your traditional cut, top 65 in ties. It's going to be a birdie fest. So I would probably focus on trying to get a lot of birdie makers. And obviously, if some of you don't know what that is, it's just basically trying to find your volatile golfers. You could use birdie or better if you wanted. You could also use like scoring. So like it was minus 26 last year and minus 25 the year before. You could go to events where the score is lower than minus 20 and see who are the golfers in the field this week that are good in those conditions. And then just apply that to your model. Or, take snapshots of certain golfers and maybe anchor your lineups around those golfers. I think those are all easy, or I shouldn't say easy. Those are all ways that you can attack this week. So keep all that in mind. I think that's all that I have for the golf course. Let me double check here. Yeah, I think we're good. We covered grass, we covered strength of field, we covered, what shot shapes are important. We're good. That covers your tournament and golf course information. The next piece to talk about are pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. Go ahead and throw that on the screen. So the first week, or the first year we can actually cover is 2020 or 2017 for your pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. This was the first year that DraftKings had salaries for this event. As a reminder, I covered this in the tournament and golf course information segment. We have a different golf course, or the last 2 years have been different golf courses than previous years. So 2017, we had TPC Las Colinas. 2018, 2019, we had Trinity Forest Golf Club. Most of that doesn't really matter when it comes to these pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. But in case I just want to provide that for you if you think it matters on your end. I personally don't think it matters on my end. I just want to look at the salaries that find their way at the top of the leaderboard. And we'll start here again in 2017. So your optimal lineup left $2,500 on the table. That's unrealistic. I would never advocate for leaving that much money on the table, but that optimal lineup did have a 10K golfer in it. And then 1 8, 3 7s, and a 6. So not a terrible way to build. Very cheap, obviously. Leaving $2,500 on the table it's difficult. I would never advocate for that. So I created a realistic lineup, which I probably could have created a little more realistic lineup. Basically what we had was all the golfers here in blue. A 10K golfer, a 9K golfer, 8, 7, 7, 6. So I think what I did here was try to follow the 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. But I think what you could do is maybe sub out Benny Ann to Matt Kuchar, and you would leave 0 money on the table. It'd be a much easier lineup to build because most of us are leaving somewhere between $0 to $200 on the table. This would most likely still take down a GPP. I don't have the GPP winning lineup up for 2017. I don't know what it is, but I bet you with 5 golfers inside the top 10 plus 1 in the top 13 or 13th place, I should say, you're probably taking down a GPP with that lineup. So either way, it starts 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. It's just more balanced when it comes to the 10, 9, 8. Just to kind of go over it again, it'd be a $10,100 Jason Day, a $9,200 Tony Finau. Now, again, I'm skipping Benny Ann. We're going to an $8,700 Matt Kuchar. So that's more on the upper range of the 8K. But then we have a $7,800 Bud Cauley, $7,500 James Hahn, and a $6,700 Billy Horschel. So it seems kind of, I mean, when you read the names off and you kind of put the salaries next to them, it seems pretty conservative. Like, it doesn't seem like it's a risky lineup. Billy Horschel at $6,700. When with that's crazy that there was ever a time where he was, you know, $6,700. But how the times have changed. That was your 2017 optimal lineup and realistic lineup. We didn't have a GPP winning lineup there. 2018, I also don't have a GPP winning lineup, but our optimal had 0 10K golfers. We started with a $9,400 Brendan Grace. Then we went to a $9,100 Mark Leishman, $8,800 Aaron Wise, who was also in the field this week, by the way. He took a long sabbatical for mental health reasons, so maybe it's a good time to play Aaron Wise this week. $7,800 Keith Mitchell, $7,400 JJ Spawn, and $7,200 Kevin Na. This used up $49,700, so you only left $300 on the table. Pretty balanced. So we have 1 week or 1 year where it was a 10.98.776. We have another year. I mean, that was more of the realistic in 2017. Here in 2018, your optimal was a very balanced build. Going to 2019, I also didn't have a GPP winning lineup. The optimal left $900 on the table. I bet you we probably can create a realistic lineup that's closer to 50,000. But in this optimal, you used an $11,400 Brooks Koepka, $9,000 Rory Sabatini, not a Rory McIlroy, Rory Sabatini, $8,400 Scott Piercy, $7,300 Sung Kang, $6,700 Matt Every, and a $6,300 Tyler Duncan. So that left $900 on the table. I just see we can sub out Tyler Duncan for Peter Uihlein, and that gets us $49,600. I don't think we can make any other substitutions that are nearby. Yeah, it doesn't quite work out. I mean, I guess we would have to take out Matt Every. Sure. How about we do that? Matt Every. This would be okay. So this one would be 49,800. So basically, we do something like this, where we'd go $11,400 Brooks Koepka, $9,000 Rory Sabatini, $8,400 Scott Piercy, $7,300 Sung Kang, and then we come down to a $7,500 Matt Jones and a $6,300 Tyler Duncan. So 11.98 or 10.98.776. So you could also do that here, and I bet you this would also take down a GPP. But yeah, your optimal left $900 on the table. Hard to do, by the way, hard to do. Moving on to 2021, where we actually are playing at the TPC Craig Ranch Golf Course. We do have a GPP winning lineup and an optimal. Your optimal left $800 on the table, and it was all your golfers here at the top. So it was another $10,000 golfer. So this is what, 4 years? No, I'm sorry. In 2018, we didn't have a $10,000 golfer, but now this is the 3rd year out of 4 years. We have a $10,000 golfer in the optimal lineup. We also have a 9K golfer, an 8K golfer, a 7, a 7, and a 6, leaving $800 on the table. So 10.98.776. You know, I advocate for that every single week, and here we go. We have it here. Your GPP winning lineup. By the way, the optimal that week scored 786.5, and your GPP winning lineup scored 719. So there's like a 70-point difference between the two. Your GPP winning lineup used KH Lee. It also used Daniel Berger at 10,100, Schwartzel at 81, and Kazire at 73. Those were all part of the optimal lineup. But instead of having Sam Burns, they had Will Zalatoris, and instead of having Scott Stallings, they had Carlos Ortiz. This used up $49,900, which makes sense. That's a little bit easier to get to. Now let's see, can we create something that would have scored more points that was closer to the optimal? I imagine we still have to include Sam Burns. This leaves us with, I mean, this uses up $41,700. So basically an $8,300 golfer or less doesn't make it easy. Yeah, I guess not. Perhaps that GPP winning lineup was probably the closest realistic lineup. Like, we have to make some serious concessions. Like, these guys scored so many points compared to everyone else that you couldn't really make a substitution. You wouldn't want to. 124. Yeah, I just don't see. I mean, okay, we obviously could, and still beat the GPP winning lineup, but really wouldn't work out. Like, I guess let's take out Kazire and Schwartzel. Maybe put in Spieth and Merritt. Does that work? No, can't do Spieth. Too expensive. I just don't see really a way. Because there's no one here that's like within a price tag that we want to use. Like $8,700 Harris English is the only person, but he scored 96.5 points. So yeah, I'm just not gonna try. Honestly, there's no point in trying to get closer. You basically have your optimal or you have your GPP winning lineup. Those are the easiest ones to get to. You're not leaving a ton of money on the table. There's no point to. It's difficult to do. Please don't do that. 49.2 is probably the most I would ever leave. On $800 is the most I would ever leave on the table, and I would only do this very few times. I wouldn't do this. You know, if I'm creating 100 lineups, I'm not doing this in over 4% of my lineups. Just not doing that. So, anyways, I tried. Didn't work out. In 2022, let's move on. In 2022, your optimal lineup left $900 on the table once again. Now, again, I'm not advocating for leaving a lot of money on the table. It's difficult to do, but we're seeing a trend. And in 2022, your optimal started with Jordan Spieth, then it went to Hideki Matsuyama, so $10,100 to a $9,900 Hideki Matsuyama. Then we went to basically 3 7Ks and a 6K. That got us $49,100. That was your optimal lineup in 2022. Your GPP winning lineup was really close, by the way. It used up Jordan Spieth, K.H. Lee, Munoz, Palmer, Xander Schauffele, $9,700, and then Matt Kuchar. So your optimal scored 827.5. Your GPP winning lineup scored 805. So there's like 25-point difference, or 22-point difference, excuse me, between the two. That's a really good lineup. Let's see, what did they use? They went 10, 9, and 4 sevens. That is what it looks like. 10, 9, and 4 sevens. Kind of like that build this week, by the way. 10, 9, and 4 sevens. Now, I did create a realistic optimal that was closer to 50,000 that still beat the GPP winning lineup. This one beat it by 8 points. Basically, you would start with a 10K golfer and Justin Thomas. Then you go to Matsuyama, K.H. Lee, 2 sevens, and a 6. So it was basically a 10, 9, 3 sevens, and a 6. Couldn't do the 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, but this is, you know, a very close iteration of that. So that was your pass optimal in GPP winning lineups for the AT&T Byron Nelson. Personally, I guess if I was to come up with a conclusion here, I think we want to start with a 10K golfer. There are only 2 10K golfers in the field, by the way. So let's move on to 2023. There are only 2 10K golfers in the field. That might be a bit difficult. And I guess if I go to my bucket system and we go down to the salaries, what are our projections? Pretty high. I'm still, the projection's 0 to 2 to be inside the top 10. It's a very high success rate of 10K golfers being inside the top 10 at this event. And basically, I like to use the bucket system to determine how comfortable I should be in playing, you know, whatever stat that I'm looking at. So obviously, we're looking at salaries. I've got no issue playing a 10K golfer. Now, there is a chance that 0 of the 10K golfers finish inside the top 10, because also one thing you need we need to look at is how many do we see per year, which is 4, versus how many do we see this year, which is 2. Not great at all. So got to keep that in mind. What I would say, don't play both of the 10K golfers. Sure, you might get a lot of leverage out of it, but it might be difficult to build lineups. Well, I guess with that being said, there are some years where I think you could probably play two 10K golfers, right? Yeah, the lineup that I did, two 10K golfers here, 49,200 would be your price tag here using two 10K golfers. How many points would we have scored? $750.5. That still takes down a GBP. So in 2021, we certainly could have done it. We could add two 10K golfers. There are two 10K golfers inside the top 10 of 2022. Can we build a lineup with these golfers? Yes, we can. This one, $49,800. So it would be JT 10-6, 10-1 Jordan Spieth, three 7K golfers, and a 6K golfer. So how many points does this score? Does this take down a GBP? That would be funny. I'm sure some of you guys were like, that's a more realistic lineup. Like, just, select those golfers. This scores 815 points, which is 10 points higher than the GPP winning lineup, and it's actually 2 points higher than my realistic lineup that I had created. I just don't find it realistic to put two 10K golfers in your lineup, but here we go. 2021 and 2022, you could have put two 10K golfers together and built a GPP winning lineup that way. Remember, though, that's when we had additional 10K golfers. Like we only have two this week. So in 2022, here are your 10K golfers: Spieth, DJ, Justin Thomas, and Sky Scheffler. Pretty good company, right? And then in 2021, who are our 10K golfers? Don't mind the alts up here. The sorting thing is stupid sometimes. DeChambeau, John Rahm, Jordan Spieth, Hideki, and Daniel Berger. So 5 10K golfers and pretty good. You could use those 10K golfers from 2021, battle against the 10K golfers in 2022, and you'd have a pretty even match. So the fact that two 10K golfers came from that, the chances were pretty high. We only have two 10K golfers in 2023. Might not be the best time to play two 10K golfers, despite me showing you that it's been working at this event. Probably hold off on that. I'll talk more about salaries when we get into the bucket system, but just trying to, go over the things that I just saw with the Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineup. So I guess keep all of that in mind, and we'll move on to the next segment. So the next one is a review. Go ahead and put that on the screen. So we're here reviewing the Wells Fargo Championship, where Wyndham Clark wins it for the first time. Here are the results for 2023. Clark beat out Schauffele by 4 shots. It was fun. It was fun watching. There was a point where actually Xander got to -16 and Clark was at -15. I think that was like hole 6 or 7, something like that. So the fact that Wyndham came back and won by 4 shots is pretty impressive, especially for his first win at a pretty difficult golf course. So yeah, -19 was your winning score. It was like perfect weather most of the time. Like I would say it was perfect weather. Sure, there might have been some wind gusts that came up and certain parts of the day were windy, but this was pretty good. Wyndham Clark is your winner. I'm not going to go over the full breakdown. Just want to show you who first and second place were and kind of a little summary of what I got to watch. So that was great. Now, what I like to do in these reviews is just review the sweet spot process. I don't necessarily so much care who won the tournament as much as I do what I covered in the strategy and preview video. Did it actually come to fruition during this week's tournament? So the first thing I like to look at basically is the summary page, or the bucket system, which gives me an idea of, of my projections that I covered in the preview and strategy video, which I will be doing in the preview video for the AT&T Byron Nelson, which this is being clipped from. I will be covering, or I covered the projections, and of those projections, this column here tells me, were those successful projections? So during my preview videos, when we go over every single projection and I'm telling you, hey, play no more than, two golfers from the last year one bucket, and then that comes out to be true, well, you could have skipped out on 19 golfers if you had not played any of them. And you might be tempted to play them because they might be good golfers. But the bucket system takes into account a lot of pieces of information. Takes into account the success rate. So I track this for every single tournament. What's the likelihood that a golfer from those buckets finishes inside the top 10 just based off of what we've seen in previous years? Not only does it cover that, it covers how many golfers are in that bucket this year. It also kind of, I will say the projections don't take into account the average per year, but you can use your eyeballs to see, this year versus on average. It also puts into account strength of field. So the projection includes success rate, how many golfers are in that bucket, as well as the strength of field points. And it creates the projection off of that, which it's been pretty successful. Like I've never seen anything lower than 31 out of 36 buckets. This week, we're 36 out of 36 buckets correct. You can see a no here, and we'll discuss this here shortly. But yeah, all buckets were successful. One thing to note, though, we didn't really go over the last year buckets because last year, this tournament, the Wells Fargo Championship, was played at TPC Potomac. This year, Quail Hollow. So I didn't include last year's stats. Technically, no one played last year at Quail Hollow, except for those at the President's Cup, but we're not including that. So technically that bucket was successful. The last year buckets were successful, but we won't count that. But 30 out of 30 buckets. So we exclude the last year buckets. We include everything else. Every other bucket was successful. Now, the one that you see a no here, on the optimizer, I had this projection. You can see here it says 1 to 2, like 1.25 to 2.08. We always round up with this one, and we always round down with this one, right? Those are the rules. So when we round up to this is 3, and we round down with this, that's 1. So I would be telling you 1 out of 3. Done this long enough that I know there has to be like a little safeguard in there. And that's where this column over here, this max projection column over here, this incorporates the sweet spot score. So the sweet spot score is my model, essentially. And it ranks all the golfers based off of the model. And then when you incorporate that into the projection, it will either raise it or lower the max projection. And you can see the differences between the two. 2.08, 1.88. So what I do with this information is I copy it over to the optimizer, but because this max projection is 2 when we round up, I want a 2-point buffer between the max projection and the min projection. So when this is just 2, got to cut it down to 0. So then when I look at it as a whole, this is actually 0 to 3 is what my projection ends up being. And that's all because of the little safeguard that's in there. And the reason I haven't really fully incorporated the sweet spot score into the projections is primarily it's kind of a trial and error scenario for me. But what I've also come to realize, what I think is wonderful, is when I have this max projection lower than this one, it forces me to lower the minimum, but still have that full maximum of 3. So basically, it forces me to push the minimum down to a 0, but it still allows me to have 3 for my max projection, which means that that bucket is a very volatile bucket. 3.68% success rate. There were 54 golfers in it. So that was like, well, it's a volume-driven bucket. There's a chance, obviously, at least one golfer is going to finish inside the top 10. But because it's such a volatile bucket and our sweet spot model isn't showing us really any golfer of quality from this bucket, we bump down that minimum to 0. So I think forever, I am going to have my normal min and max, and we will always have this conservative one over here to let us know if we need to bump down the minimum. And obviously, this being a 0 to 3 projection, there were 0 golfers in the top 10, the optimal lineup, or the sweet spot optimal. So therefore, this bucket is successful because it still matches inside that projection of 0 to 3 with 0, obviously. So it hits. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but it's just like my safeguards when it comes to these projections. It's all formula driven. You know, call it an algorithm if you want. But I think, again, no matter what, I will always have it this way. So 0 to 3 was the projection. Why it's not showing a Y here is because I don't have everything that I just talked, like everything that I just mentioned. That's not built in to the formula that drives this to be a Y or an N. And I personally don't care to change it. Sure, it would be lovely to see, you know, all green, but this also gives me an opportunity to be transparent with you and let you know how these projections work, why it's successful, and the whole thought process that goes behind it. So bucket system, 100% successful. Before we, well, so the bucket system successful. The last thing to talk about with the sweet spot process are the marquee tee times. But before we get into that, I just want to go over the pass optimal and GPP winning lineup that came from the Wells Fargo Championship. So your optimal lineup left $1,200 on the table. And it included Xander Schauffele at $10,700. And then it went 8K, Tyrrell Hatton, 7K, Wyndham Clark, 7K, Harris English, 7K, and I'm Scott. If you were with me in the strategy videos, that was a golfer I really liked, was Adam Scott. And then $7,400 Denny McCarthy. That all equals $48,800. And it also, by the way, scored 652 points. Your GPP winning lineup scored 624. So there was a 28-point difference between the two. And your GPP winning lineup used up almost all $50,000, $49,900. And those are all the golfers here in blue. So that includes Xander at 10, $9,100 Sung J M. Then it was a ton of 7K golfers. Corey Connors at 79, Wyndham Clark at 78, Adam Scott at 73, and Harris English at 71. So that was a 10K golfer, a 9K golfer, and 4 sevens. That were your GPP winning lineup. Now, that's all fine and dandy, 28 points. Now, if you're following the sweet spot process completely, and maybe I should have included marquee tee times into this. I should. Okay, next week I'll do that because it makes sense. Sweet spot optimal. I run at the end of the tournament, I run the optimizer with all of the DK points that were awarded throughout the event to find out if you follow the sweet spot process, which includes the marquee tee times, which I should have included, as well as the bucket system, can we build a lineup that still beats the GPP win lineup? Sweet spot optimal that I had for this week was it scored 631.5 points. Your GPP win lineup scored 624. So we would have taken down a GPP had we went with the following golfers: $10,000 Xander Schauffele, $9,100 Sung J M, $8,500 Tyrrell Hatton, 776. That's your 10,98776. Booyah. We would have taken down the GPP winning lineup following the sweet spot optimal. Now, I do have to confess, there was a better sweet spot optimal that scored 639 points, but I think I had to drop down my salary to $49,000 because I think it left $1,000 on the table or $800 on the table, one of the two. And I think it was like a 10K golfer. It actually might have been a 10, 9, and then 4 sevens, something like that. Just like how the optimal lineup was. That's difficult to do. And I always advocate for the 10-9-8-7-7-6. So there you go. We were able to build a 10-9-8-7-7-6. It incorporates everything that the sweet spot process does, and it still would have taken down a GPP. So I thought it was safe. It was smart, simple. Left $200 on the table. Now, the one other piece that goes with the sweet spot process are the marquee tee times. So if I slap a filter on here and we sort it by the group rank basically tells us what our marquee tee times are. So every third golfer basically is a group, or every 3 golfers that I'm highlighting here is a group. Basically what I do is I look at the top 9 groups in the field, and this is all based off the sweet spot score. I cover this in the strategy videos. Based off the sweet spot score, we figure out our marquee tee times. These are the best, the top 9 groups in the field that are paired together. The rule is never pair up, basically choose 2 to 4 groups pick 2 to 4 groups in the marquee tee times and only one golfer from those groups. So again, to remind you, choose 2 to 4 groups, and out of those groups, just pick one golfer. And that's what you build your lineups around. You don't, very rarely do we have 2 golfers from the same group in an optimal lineup or even in a GPP winning lineup. I can already see there is one with a GPP winning lineup, but when we look at this with your optimal lineup golfers, we had Xander Schauffele. These little black tick marks are optimal lineups. We had Xander Schauffele, Adam Scott, Harris English, and Tyrrell Hatton out of all of the marquee tee times. So there's 4 golfers, and they were in the optimal lineup. That's not me finagling with the data, nothing like that. Basically, what I just covered in the optimal lineup versus the GPP winning lineup, you can see right here. 4 golfers from the marquee tee times. Remember, I always say choose 2 to 4 groups. 2 to 4 groups and one golfer from each of those groups to be in your lineups. Because the marquee tee times, it's like 90% clip that we see this. 90% of the time we see 2 to 4 golfers from the marquee tee times in the optimal lineup. And there we have it. We have it. Xander's 1. Scott is 2. Harris English is 3 and Tyrrell Hatton's 4. And neither one of them played with each other. None of them. They were not in the same group. Your GPP winning lineup, by the way, did actually pair up golfers. So obviously a guy won $25,000 doing that. He paired up Harris English and Corey Connors from the same group. That was really the only difference. Instead of Tyrrell Hatton, he basically went to Harris English. Not that you would make that switch, but you can see Harris English and Corey Connors were in group 7. Adam Scott was in group 6. Xander Schauffele was in group 3. And he also had Sung J M down here in group 9. So he had 5 golfers from the marquee tee times, by the way. 5. Still weren't in the optimal lineup. We're always chasing the optimal lineup. So again, the sweet spot process prevails. Everything that I talk about, it was 100% correct this week. So now that you have that information, we can get on to the next part of the preview video. Obviously, this will be the end of the segment for the review of the Wells Fargo Championship. Let's go ahead and get into the bucket system for the AT&T Byron Nelson. So when we go over this, again, this being the bucket system for the AT&T Byron Nelson, I try to make these transitions somewhat seamless, but I always screw it up. This is going to be its own segment. So the bucket system for the AT&T Byron Nelson. One thing we have to talk about right from the get-go. 1, tournament history versus course history. I am using tournament history. So I want you all to know that. Why I'm bringing this up, again, if you haven't watched the full preview video and you're just checking out the bucket system, if we look at the previous years that this tournament's played, we've got 2022 TPC Craig Ranch was played, 2021 TPC Craig Ranch. We're at TPC Craig Ranch, obviously. 2019, 2018 Trinity Forest Golf Club. And then prior to that, it was TPC Las Colinas. So we had 3 golf courses that span from 2013 until present day. If you wanted to use course history, you could only look at 2021 and present to the present. So we really don't have a lot of course history, for being honest. So I'm using tournament history. If you don't want to, by all means, be my guest. I have no issue with that. Here's what I would tell you. These buckets, or when I go through the bucket system, we're obviously looking at these projections. So the projections for the tournament history are right here. When I say tournament history 1 bucket, and it shows 0 to basically 2, that's what this projection would be. This is actually a bad example. The next one would be a better one. 2 to 4, tournament history 2 golfers. Instead of there being a minimum of 2, just scratch that off and make it a 0. But keep the max at 4. I think that's a perfect thing to do this week. Keep the maxes Like when I go over the maxes, keep that in your head when you're building your lineups, but ignore the minimums because the minimums take into account the success that each of these buckets holds. And essentially so too does the maximum, but the maximum is also more of a safeguard for you not to play more golfers from this bucket than you should. So that's kind of how I would look at it. I think this is still fine because, you know, we're just taking in more information for more tournaments, or more golf courses for this tournament, basically. So I think that's fine. That's how I would look at it. But I thought there would be another thing I needed to talk about. I think that's fine. I think I was going to say we can't look at last year, but we can. Because last year was the same golf course. It's not the same situation as the Wells Fargo Championship where the year before was played at a different golf course, so we couldn't use last year buckets. We can use last year buckets this week. It's just the tournament history versus course history buckets. Those are the only things to really kind of, I guess, question. So now that we're here with the bucket system, let's go bucket by bucket or stat by stat, and then the buckets within each of those stats. So again, if you're unfamiliar with the bucket system, there is a video link in the description of this one that gets you to a video that explains about it. Basically, all I'm doing is I'm taking a look to see what the projections are each year or for this year based off of the successes we've seen inside the top 10 at this event every single year. More often than not, our optimal lineup golfers are going to be inside the top 10 of this tournament. So what a better thing to do than analyze the top 10 every single year and come up with their new projections. So when it comes to last year bucket, does playing this event the year before matter? And of course, this is taking into account the entire tournament at each of the golf courses that played at. So you got to keep that in mind. That being said, I think it's an overwhelming yes. And I think a lot of it comes from the strength of field points. So having a top 20 finish at this event proves to be pretty successful. I mean, the success rate is pretty high, 16.67%. We only have 13 golfers in that bucket this week, whereas we normally see around 15. So to me, it's kind of interesting that the projection is as high as it is. The only thing I can think about would be the strength of field points, would be bumping this up because nearly 50% of the strength of field points goes towards this bucket. So my projection's 2 to 4. However, the max projection is less than 3. So because this is less than 3, it does get boosted up to 3 because it's 2.95. So we round up to 3. That changes our minimum now down to 1. Whereas you see over here, it's 2 to 4. We round down with this bucket, we round up with that one. But because the conservative maximum projection is below 3, we drop the minimum to 1. I just went over this at the Wells Fargo Championship when I reviewed that video. Did the same thing. So really, this bucket now says 1 to 4. So keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at our last year ones. And if you want to follow along with me, remember, there's a cheat sheet available. Check the link of this video or check the description of this video for a link to the cheat sheet. You can follow along with me using the filters that are on here. I have a DraftKings filter on the Dream Sheet. Go ahead, drill down into that. And basically all we're going to do are look at last year ones. Now, last year ones are golfers who top 20'd this event last year. And we're looking at 1 to 4 golfers to be inside the top 10. I mean, that's what I'm projecting, 1 to 4 golfers be inside the top 10 within this bucket. So the first thing I automatically see is Scottie Scheffler. But we do have 4 9K golfers below that, and then we also have 4 8K golfers below that. I'm sorry, 3 8K golfers. I highlighted one extra. 3 8Ks, 4 9Ks, and then Scottie Scheffler being the highest priced guy on the slate. 1 to 4 is the projection. Here's how I would view those projections. This is something we've gone over every single week, and really 2 weeks ago is where it kind of bit us hard because we kind of took the projections, you know, without considering salaries. So let's say Scottie Scheffler finishes inside the top 10. He's 11,900. When we look at the rest of this bucket, there are 7 other golfers $8,000 and above. how many, if you're using Scotty Scheffler golfers, can you actually put in your lineup? Like, honestly, how many golfers can you put in your lineup if you start with Scotty Scheffler from this bucket? That's something we have to consider. Even if, let's say, 4 golfers from this bucket do finish inside the top 10, how many can you still roster and take down a GPP? That is one that's one facet to this whole thing that I've kind of ignored when I go over the previews and even my own like projections, and I'm trying to figure out which golfers I want to anchor my lineups around. That's one thing I kind of forget to do, is look at the price tags. This is insane. It's very difficult. First of all, I think we're going to see at least 2 golfers, if not 3 from this bucket inside the top 10. Like, I think that's a pretty solid projection. 2 to 3 for sure going to be inside the top 10. With that being said, how do we build a lineup if we start with Scotty Scheffler? You could only grab maybe one of these guys, especially 9K and above. You can only grab one, and then you got to skip the rest. Or you could go Scotty and then maybe Tom Hoagie and down, if you wanted to grab 2 more golfers to make 3. So if you liked Scotty, Davis Riley, Ryan Palmer, those 3 golfers, be my guest. I think there's no issue with that. Hard to anchor your lineups around golfer, like a team like that, where you see, Hideki Matsuyama, Tom Kim, your back-to-back defending champion, Matt Kuchar, Seamus Power, Tom Hoagie. Like, a lot of people are going to like Seamus Power this week because a lot of the higher up guys are kind of touting him, but with good reason. Like, I think Seamus Power is a good play this week. A lot of people do. I'm not the only person saying that. So how do you go with Scotty and at least 2 of these other guys? You probably can't. You can probably only, if you're going to go Scotty, you can only grab 1 other guy, which I think your chances are good if you're doing that. I think you're going to have a pretty decent lineup if you do it that way. There are values elsewhere. You're not like, this isn't a ride or die bucket where you got to make the absolute perfect choice here. I think if you wanted to start with Scotty, perfect. Again, my eyes gravitate to Scotty right away, and that's in my dummy lineup. The eyeball test started with Scotty, and I'll be honest with you, then I went to Adam Scott. Adam Scott's not on here, which is wonderful. I think Ryan Palmer's actually in my dummy lineup, if I'm being honest. I think it's him, because I go from Scotty Scheffler to Adam Scott, 9,200, and then I go into the 7K range. And I wonder, do I have Davis Riley? Let me take a look. I don't. Ben Griffin, Adam Schenk. Here's my dummy lineup: Scheffler, Adam Scott, Ben Griffin, Adam Schenk, Ryan Palmer, and Matty Schmidt. Yeah, I only see Palmer on here, and there you go. Like I said, 2 golfers. And this is without even, I just finished the bucket system before before recording this. So this was my dummy lineup. So it fits my narrative, but something you got to keep in mind. If you're looking at the projection can still be true, but you can only roster 2 guys, because if it is Scotty finishing inside the top 10, let's say there's 3 golfers from this bucket that finish inside the top 10. Let's say it's Scotty, Hideki, and let's say it's Tom Kim, just for the hell of it. Those 3 golfers, you might be able to pair up 2, but maybe you can't. You can only do 1. The only way you would go Matsuyama and Kim over starting with Scotty would be if Scotty finished like worse than 5th, and Hideki or Tom Kim finished inside 5th place. That's the only time you would do it. Otherwise, anything inside 5th, I'm really cool with Scotty Scheffler unless one of these 2 wins. 2nd place, I'm not too concerned with. Like, if Scotty finishes 4th or 5th and one of those guys finishes 2nd, you still have a chance to win a GPP. You'd have to be really perfect with your next 5 golfers if it's not having Matsuyama or Kim, but it still can be done. But if one of those guys wins, then that's where you're screwed. So anyways, that's a long segment on last year bucket 1, but I think it's the most important last year bucket. So I like Scheffler. Obviously, I like Scheffler. We look at the other ones, and I'm not really going to go through any of these other buckets. There's no point. It's 0 to 2 on all of them. So again, if you're on the cheat sheet, and you're in the bucket system, again, you can come here. There's a filter for this as well. You go to the bucket system. and you filter by bucket. We're going to clear all of them and only select last year. So you can see what the projections are for the other buckets, you know, bucket 2, bucket 3, bucket 4, bucket 5. So then what you would do is you come to the dream sheet, put a filter on this as well, and select the last year column here. I know it's really hard. Let me zoom in. Select this column here, like I did when I was going through the dream sheet. Clear everything and only select one for last year, for the last year bucket, which is column E. Clear, select all for one, and there you go. You have your golfers here. But for the rest of the buckets, when we go to look at 2, you want 0 to 2 out of this bucket. You also want 0 to 2 out of the third bucket for the last year buckets, and for the fourth bucket as well, and the fifth, so on and so forth. So those buckets 2 through 5, you want 0 to 2. At least that's what I am projecting to be inside the top 10 using the bucket system. Bucket 5 is a little, bucket 5 is the same. It says 0 to 1, which technically that goes up to, yeah, never mind. Don't worry about that. Last year 6, golfers who did not play. I'm projecting 2 to 4 when it comes just to the regular projection, but look at over here in this conservative projection. Same thing we see with bucket 1. Almost the exact same thing. So again, what that tells us is instead of 2 to 4, it's really 1 to 4, because this maximum here is 3. We want a 2-point gap between minimum and maximum. So the new minimum becomes 1 because this conservative projection is 3. But we still hold into account the actual max projection of 4. So I know it's confusing. It's like I'm making rules up as I go, but that's how I've seen it work out, you know, week in and week out. So 1 to 4 last year 6s, we can actually look at this bucket. I just didn't want to waste time looking at the other ones. You want 0 to 2 of those other ones. Here we want 1 to 4. This is where our other 10K golfer is. So this is super interesting. By the way, this bucket, a little bit larger than last year 1 bucket, where that projection was 1 to 4. We had like, what, 13 golfers to choose from. This one has many, many more. Let's take a look. 80 golfers in this bucket, where we normally see about 74, 75. Harder to choose from this one. I don't really see a golfer that I absolutely love. By the way, the flexibility from this bucket a little bit better than last year bucket 1s. Last year bucket 1, we have to take into account Scotty Scheffler's price tag. If we think the projection is 1 to 4 and we're actually thinking, hey, 4 golfers from that bucket are going to be inside the top 10, doesn't mean you can play 4 golfers from that bucket. Whereas 1 to 4 out of this one, I think you can. You could play 4 guys from this one pretty easily. You just couldn't do the top 4. Although you could. I mean, like 10,100, 8,700, 8,600, and 8,400. We're left with $14,200 left, which if you divide that in half, that is $7,100 for each golfer. So you could go Jimmy Walker, Eric Van Rooyen. Yeah, let's get you to 50. So you still can live in the 7K range if you start with those 4 golfers up at the top. I'm not saying you'd select 7K golfers from this if you went that way, but here you could grab the top 4 golfers where you couldn't in the last year bucket 1. So this has more flexibility. If you do like 4 golfers from here, by all means, feel comfortable playing them. I'm probably not grabbing any of these top guys. I'm kind of anti Taylor Montgomery until he fixes his golf swing. It looks disgusting. I'm not saying there's anything really technically wrong with it. It just looks gross. So I don't want to play him. It's as simple as that. I don't want to play Taylor Montgomery because the golf swing looks terrible. And then Benny Ann, Minwoo Lee, don't mind any of those guys. I don't mind sprinkling these golfers in with like Scotty Scheffler, and then obviously I liked Adam Scott. So if I want to do 1098, I'm not leaving a lot of money on the table, but I certainly could do it going this route. So keep all of that in mind. Those were your last year bucket projections. Last year bucket's always the longest one. Just to explain everything and get into the projections, let's move on to the next one, last week buckets. Everything's pretty tame in this one for the most part, 0 to 2 all the way down until you get to a missed cut and did not play. So how this looks, the question every single week is, does it matter playing the week before? Does it matter playing, this tournament the year before? Does recent form matter? Does course history matter? Well, we're looking at the last year bucket. Does playing last week matter? Doesn't really appear to be so. Like, it actually looks better if you missed the cut or you just did not play when it comes to projections. Success rate, it's obviously higher. If you top 20 the week before, it's a pretty high success rate. Well, we only have 7 golfers who top 20 last year, where we normally see around 8.5, 9. Anyone in that 20 to 40 range, we actually have more golfers than we typically do. And that kind of bumps up that projection. Decent success rate, not great. And same kind of applies for the rest of these. So let's take a look at the guys who topped 20 last week at the Wells Fargo Championship. If you have any filters on here, you want to make sure you clear them out. And by clearing them out, really you're selecting everyone. So to clear out a filter, you select everyone in the filter. We're going to this last week column. If you want to follow along with me, it's going to be a different column letter for you because the cheat sheet just works that way for you guys versus me. So it's column F. You go in here, clear out everyone or clear out the numbers, and we just select one. So we have 7 golfers that top 20 last week at the Wells Fargo Championship. Tyrrell Hatton, KH Lee, Adam Scott, Seamus Power, Alex Smalley, Michael Kim, Jimmy Walker. Now, my eyes already gravitated towards Adam Scott. Like I said, that Adam Scott's in my dummy lineup. I'm cool with that. I think what I'll probably end up doing is full fading Tyrrell Hatton. I'll play him in one lineup, and it'll be a winner take all. Try to get all my entry fees back with the perfect lineup with Tyrrell Hatton. It's just like any of you guys creating a single entry lineup. That's basically what I'll be doing with Tyrrell Hatton and putting him in a winner take all to see if I can recoup all of my entry fees that I'm putting in this week. But this kind of solidifies it for me with Tyrrell Hatton. I don't want to play Tyrrell Hatton. Again, the projection under this bucket is 0 to 2, meaning it's definitely not a bucket you feel comfortable in. The frequency rate measures how many golfers from this bucket every single year finish inside the top 10. And we have a 0 for a minimum. So there have been years where 0 golfers from this bucket finish inside the top 10. And the 77% rate tells me that we have 9 years worth of data. And of those 9 years, 7 times we actually had at least 1 golfer from this bucket inside the top 10. Since salaries were recorded in 2017 for this event, only 1 golfer from this bucket, I should say only 1, a max of 1 golfer every year has been inside in the optimal lineup. So, 2017, 2018, 2019, you skip 2020, 2021, 2022. So we have 5 years worth of salary data. Of those 5 years, 3 years at least, or only, sorry, let's repeat that. Of the 5 years, 3 of those years, we've had 1 golfer from this bucket in the top 10 for each of those years. Not in the top 10, the optimal lineup, sorry. Butchering how to say this. But basically, when you see a max here, that means we've never seen more than 1 from this bucket in any given year be in the optimal lineup. So another way of saying that again is, of the golfers here you see, only choose 1. Don't choose more than 1. Besides the projection saying 0 to 2. Still, don't choose more than 1. I already have my guy, Adam Scott. A lot of you are going to be picking Seamus Power. Some of you are going to be picking Michael Kim. And some, because of contrarian reasons, are going to be going with Tyrrell Hatton off of Scotty Scheffler. Which, hey, by all means, it works out. I go by the buckets. I don't really care about ownership leverage or anything like that. If Tyrrell Hatton's your guy, perfect. Don't play any of these other guys to go with Tyrrell. Just play Tyrrell and that's it. So that's your last week 1 bucket. Just like I did in the last year buckets, we're not going to talk about last year 2, 3, or 4. This is your medium range, and the projections here are 0 to 2. Just to remind you, there is a cheat sheet available. Hopefully you saw that, or you heard that when I was talking about the last year buckets. When you come here, make sure there's a filter on here, and by every bucket that I'm talking about. So if we go to last week 2s, the projection's 0 to 2. We go to last week 3s, the projection here is 0 to 2. So, you know, be cautious. Don't play more than 2 golfers, but, you know, if you do like someone, be comfortable playing them. It's totally fine. And same goes with bucket 4, which there are only 2 golfers. So you can't really play 0. You could play 0 to 2. And it's not, these aren't terrible guys. Like Stuart Sink, I've got no issue playing this week. Same goes with Austin Eckroat. So technically the projection is 0 to 2, and that's fine. It can be 0 to 2. When we look at golfers who missed the cut last week, you can play this bucket in confidence because actually I'm gonna remove this. This is the cheat sheet, by the way. I am actually going to use my sheet. So last week 5s are those that missed the cut last week. Jason Day is the top guy. And you know, if you want to play Jason Day, I think it's a fantastic week to play Jason Day. Taylor Montgomery, on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan of Taylor Montgomery. Ever since watching him during the match play, holy crap, does that golf swing suck. Benny Ann, no issue there. Probably pretty cautious on Adam Hadwin. I don't really. My model has. He must have been playing some really good golf prior to this calendar year, like January 1st. Because he's like, his stat profile just pops a ton. In like, he popped during the Wells Fargo Championship, but I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to play any Adam Hadwin. Sure enough, he missed the cut, so it was perfect. I don't know why the model likes him so much. Has to be strokes gain stats, I imagine. It could be. It's certainly not tournament history, and I don't think it's recent form either. So I don't know why he's popping. So I don't know if this is a good omen for any of you that want to play him. I'm certainly going to stay away from Adam Hadwin. I don't care to play him. But hey, these are some brownie points for Adam Hadwin for being so good in the model. The rest of the guys I'm not going to talk about, but there are some good names here in the 7K range that I do not mind playing whatsoever. Like Davis Riley, I have no issue. Sign me up. Will Gordon, same thing. S.H. Kim, Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin's in my dummy lineup. I love Ben Griffin this week. Aaron Rai, absolutely. I actually don't mind Luke List this week. I really don't know how much trouble he can get into on this golf course. He also hasn't been playing super great lately, so keep that in mind. But hey, not a terrible choice. Mac Hughes, I like. Eric Cole, I like. Adam Schenk. He's in my my dummy lineup. I like Adam Schenk this week. A lot of good golfers. I've got no issue playing any of these guys. Even some of these 6K golfers. So this is a good range. Remember, the projection is 1 to 3. You can see that here, the last week 5 bucket, 1 to 3. Still shows up with the conservative projections over there. So be comfortable playing that. Let's move on to the next one. Last week 6s. These are golfers who did not play last week at the Wells Fargo Championship. This is another one of those, hey, it's a 2 to 4 bucket, but no, it's not. The conservative projection over here for maximum is 3. That automatically drops down the minimum to 1. So how this projection now reads is 1 to 4 for golfers who did not play last week. So when we take a look at those golfers, Scotty Scheffler is going to be one of them, obviously. Then we have Hideki Matsuyama, Maverick McNeely, Tom Hoagie, Minwoo Lee, Aaron Wise, Christian Bezain, just to cover the 8K golfers and above. 1 to 4 is a great projection. I mean, Scotty's just my guy. I think I'm always going to go with Scotty over the rest of these guys. But kind of gives a good argument for Hideki Matsuyama. If you didn't, be cautious with Hideki. There's still a lingering neck issue that's going on with him, but he is showing up in some of these buckets that you do want to play. So if it's not Scotty and you want to be contrarian, I think Hideki is actually a pretty decent pivot when it comes to the buckets, not because of ownership, but because of buckets and salary relief. So I would consider that. I would consider Hideki Matsuyama this week over Scotty Scheffler. He's in a lot of the buckets. Like he was in the last year bucket with him. He's obviously in the last week bucket. He's going to be in the course history buckets together. So kind of a strong case to be made for Hideki Matsuyama. Again, I'm not talking about the rest of the guys, but when you go on the cheat sheet and you go over all this, remember the projections 1 to 4. So you can pick up to 4 golfers, and it would be pretty simple. A lot of these guys are 6K and below. So you wanted to start with Scotty, you could find 3 other guys down here if you truly wanted to. You probably don't, but maybe 2. You could go with 2, and then you'd have 3 golfers from this bucket. It fits under the projections. So keep that in mind. That is your last week bucket. So we've covered last year, last week. Time to get into the tournament history buckets. So I covered this at the beginning of this segment, the bucket system. I also covered it in the beginning of the preview. Remember, we only really have 2 years of course history at this event for TPC Craig Ranch, because the years prior were Trinity Forest Golf Club in 2019, 2018, and then Las Colinas 2013, or I should say 2017 back to 2013. So there were 5 years where there was Las Colinas, and then it was Trinity Forest Golf Club and TPC Craig Ranch. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about the bucket system. Do you want to use tournament history and go back to 2013, or do you just want to use course history? If you're going to use course history, here's what I recommend. So on the cheat sheet, if you go to the bucket system and we take a look at course history, it's going to say course history on your side. I'm not going to change this. This is a community page. I'm just going to keep it like this because I update this every single week. It's just easier for me to update it without having to think about, oh, I need to change this to course history. I need to change this to tournament history, yada, yada, yada. So it's just going to say course history, but just so you know, it says really tournament history. What you see here is what I have on my side. What I would suggest you to do is forget about the minimums. Do not even think about the minimums. Block these off. Don't look at it. Only look at the max projections. And remember, we always round up. There's always a 2-point gap. So this first one, yeah, if I say ignore that, you're going to be like, well, 0.5, I round up, that's 1. No, round up to 2. Remember, there's a 2-point gap. Just consider this all zeros. Like your minimums are just straight up zeros. But always round up. And if it's less than 1, round it up to 2. Or I should say less than 1. If it's 1, then round it up to 2. So no matter what, just to reiterate, no matter what, the minimum max projection is 2. Okay? Does not matter anymore what's in the minimum projection. If you're going by course history, which I have no issue with you doing, just keep that in mind. Okay, now that I've confused you beyond belief, let's go ahead and get into these tournament history buckets. So golfers who have the best tournament history here, I only have 4 of those golfers in the field this week. And this is like top 20 average finishing position. 0 to 2 is the actual projection. 4 golfers. I don't even know who they are. Well, KH Lee's going to be one of them, right? Tom Kim. KH Lee is not one of them. That's interesting. But Tom Kim, Benny Ann, Christian Bezuidenhout, and Davis Riley. Guess what? They've all played here one time before. Maybe Benny Ann played more than once. He didn't play here last year, but he has a 5 for course history. I imagine he probably only played this event once. But the other 3 golfers definitely have only played this once. And that's why their course history, tournament history is so good. And quite frankly, you could actually use this as course history and be just totally fine with it because they would just be in this bucket regardless. So 0 to 2, though, is the projection. It's not a very high projection. It's not something to be confident in. If anything, maybe just pick one golfer at most and then move on. I'm going to load this up with course history 2. This is definitely the highest projection for maximum, but just like every other bucket we've been going over, our conservative max projection over here drops it down. So really this is a 1 to 4 bucket once again. Let's take a look at the course history 2 guys. We have Scotty Scheffler. We also have KH Lee in here. And Hideki Matsuyama. Obviously, we're covering Hideki and Scotty. Like, they're in a lot of the same buckets together. Maybe this is a Hideki week. Maybe. Here's my guy, Adam Scott. So my dummy lineup is Scotty, Adam Scott. Ryan Palmer's in it. Yeah, Ryan Palmer is in it. I also have Matty Schmid, which is not in there. Ben Griffin and Adam Schenk. I don't see any of those guys there. So I have 3. Guess what? Max projection is 4. So my dummy lineup is just, I guess I just keep it, right? The perfect dummy lineup. You pick up to 4 though. So if you wanted Scotty, Adam Scott, Ryan Palmer, I mean, you could add in, I really don't like adding in the same price tag. I don't mind Charlie Hoffman. I probably wouldn't go there, but like Scott Stalling, that's $7,700. You can make it work. You could make it work. If you win a 10, 9, and 4 7s, you can make that work. So not a terrible play. Going on to the next one, tournament history 3. This is a 1 to 3 bucket, and that still holds true even with the conservative projection over there. So I'll just take out 2, put in course history 3, and Jason Day is at the top of this one. Seamus Power, Hoagie, Jaeger, Spawn. I don't really like this bucket. Probably my least favorite one with the golfers internet. 1 to 3 is the projection. So picking out 1, which I mean, if I'm picking one, if I'm telling you to play one guy, it's probably Jason Day or it's probably Seamus Power. There's no way I'm feeling comfortable telling you to play one of these other guys just because. I don't like this at all. You want to know a name that I would not mind playing? CT Pan. Did he miss the cut last week? I can't remember. He did. Made enough birdies though. Like, I didn't have an issue. He looked like he was going to make the cut. I don't know. He could probably do worse than CT Pan. I think he's going to be making his way back soon. And he was a quality golfer before he got injured. Gabe Brown was at the Wells Fargo Championship, and he said that he didn't look sharp at all. He had medical tape on his wrist, so something to be leery of. I don't know. I don't mind playing someone like CT Pan though. Cam Champ, I also don't mind going back to, or even like a Matthew Neesmith, or Aaron Rye is probably the choice, right? I'd feel more comfortable playing Aaron Rye than most of these guys. Even Steven Yeager. I like the idea of playing Steven Yeager, so yeah. It's an interesting bucket, because it really makes you choose. If you don't go Day, like obviously I like going Scotty Scheffler and then Adam Scott. If I do that, I kind of have to pass by Jason Day and Seamus Power and probably Tom Hoagie, and then choose one guy from down here, and I care for most of these guys. One note, Justin Lauer, 40th in my model. Pretty decent bent grass stats. I'm kind of liking Lauer. Not super great strokes gain stats. Off the tees, terrible. Approach, not super great. Putting is what saves him. I mean, I don't have an issue going to someone like Justin Lauer, but great. Anyways, 1 to 3 is the projection from this bucket, so choose 1 to 3 golfers. I think that's fine. Not going to talk about tournament history 4 or 5. You can go ahead and check that out on the cheat sheet. Tournament history 6. We want 1 to 3, but actually this is another one of those buckets. So although it says 1 to 3, remember, round down with this one, round up with that one. So 2.11 goes to 3, 1.26 goes to 1, but our conservative max projection over here is 1.92, meaning 2 is the actual, the conservative max projection. That drops the minimum down to 0 now. You want a 2-point gap between the conservative max projection and the minimum, but we still keep on the max projection. So this is really 0 to 3. These are golfers who have never played the AT&T Byron Nelson before. This includes course history. This includes tournament history. So guys who've never played this event before. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong bucket. I was like, wait a minute. I see. I put the wrong filter on. Course history 6s. Tyrrell Hatton, Taylor Montgomery. Taylor Montgomery's a rookie. Min Woo Lee, technically a rookie. Alex Smalley, I believe, is a rookie. S.H. Kim, Stevens, most of these are rookies. A lot of firepower, by the way. Like, here's some names I'll just tell you that I like. I don't mind playing Hatton this week. I probably won't. Min Woo Lee, I like. I don't mind jumping back on the Alex Smalley bandwagon. S.H. Kim, I like. Sam Stevens, like Ben Griffin is in my dummy lineup, so I'll go there. No issue. I like Eric Cole. I don't know about Higo. I don't mind it, but probably won't. Same goes with Thompson. MJ Duffy. Don't mind MJ Duffy. Vincent Norman, no problem there. I skip Hall, probably skip Long, probably skip Eckroat. I like Gerard. Matty Schmid is in the dummy lineup as well. So, hey, that all works out. I've got Schmid and Griffin from here. Is Shank here at all? I think my dummy lineup is perfect. I think it matches the... If I built it through the optimizer, I don't think it breaks. That's just how good I am with this stuff. Already knew. I actually didn't even know these guys' stats. That was just the eyeball test. So it works out. I also like Carl Yuan. I like Stuart Sink. I wouldn't mind playing Chad Ramey this week. I like Augusto Nunez. I really like Carson Young, despite not rating out very well in the model. He's been rating out really well in previous. It's catching up to him, I guess. His bad play. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the rest of them, but I just went through a bunch of names that you could fit in your lineups, especially if you started with Scottie Scheffler. That covers your tournament history / course history buckets. Next one to talk about are the recent form buckets. So another one of those questions, does recent form matter more than, course history or tournament history? I would probably say yes, because most of your buckets for the recent form, like the projections, are actually, no. This week is different. Last week, you definitely wanted good recent form. This week doesn't look it doesn't look like recent form really matters that much. It's pretty watered down. Let's just go over the projections really quick. 0 to 2 for your really good recent form. These are guys that have averaged a top 20 finish over the last 7 weeks. Recent form 2, at 20 to 40 range. Projection is 1 to 3. Recent form 3 is at 40 to 60 range. This is kind of like middle of the pack, 1 to 4. Recent form 4 is 1 to 3. And then it's 0 to 2 for the remaining buckets. Although recent form 6, golfers who haven't played in the last 6 weeks, not a really good bucket to choose from. So knowing that, 0 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 3. Okay, I can remember that. So the first one is 0 to 2. Scheffler, Kuchar, Vincent Norman. So yeah, I think if I'm going Scheffler, I'm probably not playing the other two, but hey, Matt Kuchar isn't a terrible choice either. But I wouldn't play all 3 of those guys together, which is kind of funny. I think Ryan Henson sent me. I think he sent me a Twitter message that has him in it, right? He went with Scheffler. Oh, he does not have Kuchar, but he does have Vincent Norman in it. Hey, it works out, Ryan. That works out. Moving on to the next one. Recent form 2s. 1 to 3 is the projection here. There's Hideki Matsuyama. Like, in all honesty, the pivots from Scottie Scheffler to Hatton or Matsuyama are proven to be pretty logical. I don't really I don't really care about ownership. But when it comes to the buckets, they're in very opposite buckets. Well, not opposite, but for Hideki, he's in some of the buckets with Matsuyama or with Scheffler. And then he's obviously not in this, or he's not in the bucket for the recent form stat as Scottie Scheffler. So now it's like, that one's a 0 to 2 bucket, meaning 0 could be inside the top 10. The one that I just covered, the recent form 1 bucket with Scotty Scheffler in it, Matt Kuchar, and Vincent Norman. This one's 1 to 3. There's probably a little bit more trust in this bucket to choose either Hatton or Matsuyama. Yeah, it makes it challenging. Very, very much so. But my guy Adam Scott is in this bucket, which is perfect. That's definitely a golfer I do want to choose this week. He really could be the one guy that I want. Remember, the projection's 1 to 3. Yeah. Moving on to the next bucket, recent form 3s. A few more golfers here, and the projection is 1 to 4. Remember that, 1 to 4. I think it's 1 to 4 because there's just not like a ton of good golfers in this bucket. Very, high volatile golfers. Jason Day being one of them. Seamus Power, Taylor Montgomery. Remember, I don't mind going to like a Steven Yeager. I also don't mind Davis Riley. I don't mind Scott Stallings. Some of these guys I've already talked about. Let's see. Can't remember. What was I just talking about with my dummy lineup? Griffin is in it. So Ben Griffin. Do we have... Oh, Adam Schenk is in it. Ryan Palmer, Matty Schmidt. Ryan Palmer, I can't remember how much he cost, but he's not here. I don't see Matty Schmidt. That's okay though. I have 2 guys. Remember, the projection's 1 to 4. I could add Steven Yeager if I wanted to. And then recent form 4 is also 1 to 3. There's my Matty Schmidt. And is Ryan Palmer in this? Where the hell is Ryan Palmer? There he is. Yeah. So there we go. 2. So 1 to 3. Dude. The dummy lineup has all of my projections in it. Perfect. Just I'm one lineup in all of my contests now. This is a pretty decent bucket. You can easily find 1 to 3 golfers to fit in your lineups here. They're all pretty reasonable price tags, making it really easy to roster any of these guys. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We're not going to really talk about recent form 5s. Yeah, no real reason here. Remember, projection 0 to 2. And then recent form 6s, not a super good bucket to choose from, so probably stay away from this one, but there you go. Vince Whaley is probably the only guy that I probably consider like playable. The only guy that's ranked under 100. I don't know where the hell Vince Whaley's been, but he's back. Interesting. Okay, cool. Those are your recent form buckets. So the next 2 buckets aren't a part of like the core buckets when it comes to bucket system, but it's definitely worth looking at. We went over the salaries kind of in the pass optimal and GPP winning lineup segment of the preview video. But we can dive into it a little bit more here. 2 golfers in the 10K range. Projection is 0 to 2. It is Scotty Scheffler and Tyrrell Hatton. I got no issue playing any of them. The next one, though, is very interesting. The projection for the 9K golfers to finish inside the top 10 is 1 to 3. So I think, and the bucket system thinks, somewhere between 1 to 3 golfers from the 9K range will finish inside the top 10. That makes rostering Scotty Scheffler a little bit more challenging because that could be Hideki Matsuyama. Obviously, we were talking about Matsuyama. He fits in a lot of the buckets that Scotty Scheffler does. So that becomes a little bit more challenging. And if you want to look at salaries, by the way, make sure you've got no filters on. We can sort salary from top to bottom. We talked about Scotty and Tyrrell. Now we're on to the 9K range. 1 to 3 golfers from this bucket, I think, are going to be inside the top 10. So it kind of tells you want to play at least 1. Now, thankfully, my dummy lineup has Adam Scott in it. I like Adam Scott this week, but I can make a case for any of those 9K golfers, really. I like Matsuyama. I also really like Tom Kim. Jason Day, I'm pretty lukewarm about. I mean, I thought he should have performed so much better at the Wells Fargo Championship. He didn't look super great there. Maybe he was a little rusty. I don't know. Probably more cautious on him. H. Lee, I'm not. I don't think back-to-back is in his cards, but I would have told you last year, back-to-back wasn't in his cards. Like, don't play a defending champion. And obviously he won. By the way, I did take down a Nagels Bagels contest without having KH Lee in my lineup. I had Jordan Spieth. So I can see the same thing kind of happening with Scotty Scheffler this week. But yeah, the 9K range, 1 to 3. Yeah, I think you have to play someone from the 9K range. I think you just have to. Even if you do go Scotty, you still have to play someone from the 9K range. 8K range. That's 1 to 2. But remember, if this number over here isn't higher than 2, we got to drop the minimum to 0. So despite it being 1 to 2, it's really 0 to 2. Because you still want that 2-point buffer between minimum and maximum. So then when we look at the 8K range, quite frankly, I don't care for any of these 8K golfers. Like I'm not trying to force any of these guys in my lineups. There are some definitely capable golfers, definitely very talented golfers. Like Seamus, at the beginning of the year, the fall swing, he's your stud. He was leading the FedEx Cup, points list. That was before the big tournaments came in and your big names came in, like your John Rahms, your Scotty Schefflers, to take that mantle away from Seamus. But in a weaker strength of field, he thrives. So why not? And he played pretty decent at the Wells Fargo. Got no issue playing him. Probably a little bit more cautious on like Maverick McNeely. I already told you I think Taylor Montgomery's golf swing is disgusting. I can't play a golfer that has a disgusting golf swing until they prove to me that their results have been decent recently, which they haven't been with him. I do like Benny Ann. I don't mind going to Benny Ann. Hoagie's the same way. I don't mind playing him. Minwoo Lee's 44th in my model. He's going to be higher than a lot of other people's models that have strokes gain stats and world, ranking points. And I mean, I do too, but the world ranking points. But I'm not incorporating any strokes gain stats from any of the other events. Like raw strokes gain stats, that makes sense. That's just looking at baselines. So obviously, if Minwoo Lee is excelling against the baseline, then obviously he's a very capable golfer. Now, there is a thing coming from like a Euro Tour event to a PGA Tour event. It just, the competition's better, the pressure is higher. So that's why I think we haven't really seen very good results from Minwoo Lee this year, but he's a very capable golfer, very good. Aaron Wise is coming back from kind of a mental health hiatus. So he took a little break to recharge the batteries. I don't know if it was because of the pressure on the PGA Tour that he had to take a little bit of a break, but it was due to mental health rest. So you got to keep that in mind. Play him with caution or play him with Jubilee, I guess. Maybe he's going to come back and just stomp on everyone's throat. I got no issue playing Aaron Wise this week if you wanted to, be risky. I like Jaeger. I don't like Hadwin. I don't care for Spawn, although we are in Texas, and this is a Texas, you play Spawn at Texas events, so this would be a good time to play Spawn. Zeidenhout, he had a top 20 finish here last year. I've got no issue playing him. Same goes with Davis Riley. I like him. Now we're going into the 7K range. But for the 8K range, you have capable golfers. It's just the projection 0 to 2. If you don't want to play an 8K golfer, buckets they're on your side. It's 0 to 2. For 7K golfers, 1 to 3 is your projection. I'm not going to go through all of those. 0 to 2 high 6Ks, 0 to 2 low 6Ks, but kind of leaning on the 1. Don't play more than 1 low 6K golfer, and that's anyone below 6,500. So 6,500 and up, the max is 2. I wouldn't put 3 6K golfers in your lineup. If you do, it would be 2 golfers from the high 6K and 1 golfer from the low 6K. But I wouldn't play more than 2 6K golfers in your lineups. All right, last thing to talk about, strokes gain buckets. If you're unfamiliar with how I do strokes gain, I again encourage you to watch the bucket system video that I have linked in the description of this one, the one that says bucket system explained. Because I look at off the tee and putting primarily. I don't really care what's in approach. Your strokes gain 1 bucket has all stats positive. So that's off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. So if you really wanted to find your better golfers, they would be in this bucket. Strokes gained 2 could have negative approach golfers, but it has positive off the tee and positive putting. Same applies for strokes gained 3, but this is positive putting and positive off the tee, negative putting. Could have a positive approach. These are basically team no putts. So your really good ball strikers tend to be in this group. Scotty Scheffler's in this group. So you all know how to do the projections by now. If not, just rewind this video and see what I did with all the other projections when it comes to the other buckets. 0 to 2 strokes gained 1, 0 to 2 strokes gained 2, 2 to 5 strokes gained 3, 1 to 2, but technically that's 0 to 2 strokes gained 4, 0 to 2 strokes gained 5. There are 6 golfers in the strokes gained 6 bucket, but probably not worth playing. I mean, I think it's just not worth playing. One quick note, the conservative max projection is 4, where the actual projection over here is 5 for the max, but the minimum already rounds down to 2. So we don't have to do anything with this. This still stays 2 to 5. And of course, all these projections will be in the optimizer. So we can look at some of these. Let's look at the top 3 buckets. We can look at the top 4 buckets for strokes gained stats. Here's the wonderful thing that I do when it comes to the cheat sheet as well as my sheet. You can sort by strokes gained stats, and you can see they're all color coordinated. See how it works perfectly? So strokes gained 1 is this dark green color, strokes gained 2 is this light green, and then goes into yellow for strokes gained 3. 0 to 2 for strokes gained 1. Hatton and Matsuyama. Remember, I mean, these are perfect pivots from Scotty Scheffler. But I also like Ben Griffin down here for like a good 7K golfer. Same goes with Scott Stallings, by the way. 0 to 2 is a really good projection. It really kind of forces you to think. This isn't a bucket that it's telling me I need at least 1. And if we go back to it, we've never seen more than 1 inside the top 10 from this bucket. And there's never been more than 1 in an optimal lineup. 33% frequency rate of one of these guys being in the optimal lineup. And for top 5 success, not super high, 9%. And haven't had more than 1 top 5 finish from this bucket. We do have 9 this year, where we normally see just north of 7. So maybe that helps, at least finding 1, if not 2. But I kind of like this projection, and it really forces you to think which golfer, like which ones do you want in your lineup if you're going to have 2, or which one do you want in your lineup? Because Hatton, Matsuyama, Kim, Day already are hard decisions to make. But then you've got, the rest of these guys. I would probably just cast out Cameron Percy. Just don't worry about that. But Grayson Sigg isn't a terrible 7K choice. Neither is Griffin or Stallings. So this is interesting. Strokes gained 2. 0 to 2 is the projection here as well. And we have 15 this year, where we normally see around 20. So keep that in mind. We normally see 2 the least amount of times we've seen inside the top 10 from this bucket are 2. We've seen at least 2 every single year. Again, we have less golfers in that bucket this year than we normally do, so maybe that is cause for concern. 0 to 2. Strokes gained 2. Scott, Taylor. I mean, if you look at this bucket, there's a good reason why you should pump your brakes. But hey, I have Scott in my dummy lineup, and I have Matty Schmid. That's it. So I've got my 2 covered. Dude, my dummy lineup is so good. And no one else is in it. Don't have Schenk. Don't have Palmer. Don't have Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin was in the top one. It's so good. So we go into the next one. And for this one, it's 2 to 5, remember? So let's look. I've got Scotty Scheffler. Got Scotty Scheffler in my lineup. Is Schenk in this one? Or is Schenk a 4? Schenk, I think, is a 4. I think I have Palmer, right? 2 to 5 is what we're looking for. And I think, yeah, Ryan Palmer's right there. And I think Schenk is down here, right? Can't find them. Where you at, Adam? I'm just like I'm just looking at my so $7,300 is what his price tag is. So I don't see him there. I don't see him here. Oh no. I've got 3 strokes gained 2. I gotta change them. Doesn't work out. That's a bummer. We came across the first issue with my dummy lineup. Bummer. Anyways, 2 to 5. So maybe I switch it from, so we were Ryan Palmer. Maybe I just change $7,300 golfers and try to find someone in here. Maybe. I don't know. But 2 to 5. I think you could probably find 2 to 5. I mean, Steven Yeager seems like a pretty good choice. Maybe I transfer Ben Griffin up to him somehow. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Not a big deal. 2 to 5. Strokes gained 3s. There's a lot of golfers here to choose from. A lot of good names. And then 0 to 2 strokes gained 4. But I believe it's 1 to 2. Remember, we need that 2-point buffer. So the minimum drops down to 0. But there's some good names here. Matt Kuchar, Seamus, Hoagie, Eric Cole, Mark Hubbard. I don't mind Mark Hubbard. Maybe that's who I'll switch my... Oh, you know what? I actually have $200 to play with. So I could go from Palmer up to Mark Hubbard. Probably a safer choice anyways, right? Works out. Just works out perfect. Okay. That's going to cover the strokes gained stats. I'm not going to go over strokes gained 5. Dylan Woo's here, by the way. Lots of people love Dylan Woo this week. He did play pretty decent last week. Can't remember if he was in the optimal lineup or not. No, he wasn't. But he was in a good or he did well. Strokes gained 5, 0 to 2, by the way, for your projection. So yeah, that covers the strokes gained stats. I feel like throughout this video I just fell hard. It got tired really quick. I think that's going to cover the preview. It's going to cover the strokes gained stats. The strokes gained buckets, I should say, or just the bucket system. See, I can't even speak straight. Can't even say things correctly. Can't even speak straight. Can't even see straight. Can't say things correctly. I'm losing it. So appreciate you all watching this segment of the bucket system. Also appreciate all of you watching the full entirety of the preview. So I'm not even going to do a giveaway reminder. Go check the beginning of the video. I'm just going to end it right here. Thank you all for watching. Oh, geez. Look at this. I'm a rookie. Go ahead and put this and say thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.